Hello everybody, my name is Cave, and this video will be a general guide on the New Game Plus any percent route in Returnal. As of recording this video, I have the world record in this category as well as fresh file. I figured I'd make this video with the PC release coming out. I wanted there to be some sort of guide that new runners could follow and hopefully help them get started in this category. So before we actually get into the run, we're going to do some quick housekeeping. To begin, I do have some settings changed. So here we can see that my controls are custom. Primarily my dash, I've switched to L1. My melee, I've switched to R1. And my use consumable is currently up on the D-pad. That's not really necessary in this category, and you can also change that to circle or square. It's a personal preference thing. I'm just comfortable with it up on my D-pad. Next, if we go into the gameplay tab, we can see that my sprint is on always sprint. This is just a quality of life change. You have no reason not to ever sprint, or not ever sprint. However you want to say it. You always want to be sprinting. There's no scenario where you want to walk in these speedruns. And I've also changed my mini-map distance to 75%. This is just going to allow us to see which way we need to go faster. And lastly, and most importantly, if we come down to our custom HUD within our video settings, I have cycle timer on. This is the most important setting out of all of these. This is required for any of your runs to be verified, so make sure you have this on. The reason for my switched controls is so I can DMJ. While DMJ isn't required by any means, if you want to be competitive for a good time, I would definitely recommend you learn it. And if you're going to learn it, I'd recommend getting used to these controls. Of course, I'm using the PlayStation controller. I plan on using it for the PC version. So I'm not sure if anyone's using keyboard and mouse, how you'd want to set it up. But I will link a video in the description for Uprisen's DMJ tutorial. I would definitely recommend watching it. He does a great job explaining what the DMJ is and how to do it. And the last thing before we get started is if I go ahead into my, here we go, my data bank. I am currently working on what is known as a, this sounds dumb. I'm on a specific save file. So essentially what that means is I went through the base game only using the pistol and the sword. So that way my only other weapon unlock is the Dreadbound. I'm going to link another video in the description. This one is by, what's his name? Oh, Mikiwi. He has awesome guides all around. I would strongly recommend checking out his channel for some Returnal guides. But the one I have linked is essentially explaining save files and why they're important. But the short story of it is that it is to help your RNG in these runs. So with all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and do a run here. And I'll kind of explain the thought process as we go through. This is going to be a slower run. I'm not going to go for a crazy time or anything. I was kind of explaining the important things to take note of as you're going through this run. To start off, we're going to be in Biome 4. The issue we don't start in Biome 1 is because Biome 1, to get to Biome 1 to 4, all you do is go through the ship. You lose like 11 seconds. If you have an issue with it, I don't know, I'd run a different category. So to begin, what we're going to do is we're going to look for the light blue door on our map. And this is why we expanded our map distance so that we can see the door. Because of my save file, you'll notice we passed by the electro pylon driver there. We're never going to pick that up. And the reason we don't pick it up again is so that our chest odds are good for the Dreadbound. Continuing through, we're just going to continuously DMJ whenever possible towards these light blue doors, which mark the correct path. And here we have the house. I'll pause here for a second. So I got to the house around 38 seconds. Personally, I think the house is a great point where you can take note of how fast your run is going and kind of gauge if this run is worth continuing. If you're just starting, maybe set a time of 50 seconds, and as you get more comfortable going through the fourth biome, you can slowly lower it. Me, for example, if I'm doing record runs, I'm not continuing a run if it's anything slower than 32, 33 seconds. So I'm going to reset and do that one more time full speed. I'll continue it no matter what. I'm saying no matter what because depending on what kind of time you're going for, there's certain rooms that are basically just death rooms, where if you get those rooms, you're just not going to get a fast house time. Again, we're going to pass the driver. This is one of those rooms I would consider a death room, and under normal circumstances would stop the run. A general notation of a death room is within these first 3 rooms, if you get a room where you have to like grapple 3 or 4 times, it's probably not very fast. So we'll go ahead and continue this on until we reach the house. Another note is you can sometimes get lockdowns in these rooms. If you do, just reset. It's not worth continuing. There we got a 37 house. So for the video, you know, we'll continue on. Here we do a little trick where we sword after a dash as we're falling. It gives us a little forward momentum. And here we're going to DMJ into the stairs and short hop. If you mash fast enough and on the perfect timing, you'll get a lot of really fast hops, which will allow you to jump up faster. So once you're up here, you enter the room. Sorry, my mind took over autopilot for a second. You're going to want to DMJ this way, to the left, and this will bring you to biome 6. You're not going to want to go to the right because that's where biome 5 is, and that's not necessary for this run. So we're falling down. We're going to do the dash slash attack again, and make sure you grab this calibrator here. You absolutely need proficiency level 24. And our main goal of biome 6 is to look for our dreadbound. When you're going for really good times, you would essentially not look at chests that are out of the way, but for the purposes of this video, we will do that. Here's a nice little skip you can do for that section. Instead of taking the grapple, you can just jump across. In biome 6, with these lengthy DMJs, it's important to always look for places to grapple ahead, as it'll pull you further. And we're also on the lookout for any chests that we can open. The reason we're looking for chests is because we're looking for a dreadbound. Specifically a dreadbound with explosive, expanded, and 4th shards. So that is not a dreadbound, so we will have to continue looking. Here's a nice, it's actually cool that this room came up. Here's a nice little skip for this room. You can DMJ up here, or you can jump and dash, and then from here you can actually DMJ to the top, which effectively skips that whole bottom part. Alright, so here it's looking like we might not get the dreadbound. Despite me saying I would stop and look around for one, you know, this just happened to be a run where we didn't get many opportunities. So we're going to drop down here. We have 2 more chest opportunities, so maybe we'll get the dreadbound. That would be great. I really don't want to have to edit do any editing. So let's see. Okay, this is a basically perfect dreadbound. We're going to take this, and once we get towards the boss, we'll show. So sometimes you can make jumps like that because of the lengthy DMJs, as I said before. And now we've reached the door. So this is another good place to take note of time, if you're on pace or not, especially if you have a gun. Another good place is when you do that first drop all the way back. So let's look at our gun really quick before we go do this Ophion fight. Here in equipment, we can see it has expanded shards 3, explosive shards 3, and then a locked obolite magnet 1. So that isn't going to affect this boss battle at all. If we go into our data bank and look at equipment, we can see that on this save file I have, the only traits I have unlocked are 4th shard 2, expanded shards 3, and explosive shards 3. The 2 most important traits you want for this Ophion fight are as high of an expanded shards and explosive shards as you can get. And we're going to see what that does in the boss fight. But essentially, if you get like expanded 3 but you don't get explosive, or you get explosive but not expanded, I would just reset. With how short this run is, you know, feel comfortable resetting. You can always just do another run. But the reason why this is okay, because 4th shard is cool, but it's not really required. The 2 ones that you absolutely need are expanded and explosive. So let's go ahead and do this boss fight. And honestly, we're going to end up with a half decent time, even with all the pausing and explaining. So here's Ophion. What we're going to do is we're going to shoot these orbs, and then just start aiming at this section for phase 1. And with explosive and expanded 3, you can see we immediately erase it. Phase 2, we're going to shoot that. And if we shoot right about here, we can hit all 3. And if you're lucky, you might be able to stop it before this animation happens, but that's not very common. Now phase 3, this is the most important one. We're going to hit this, and we're going to aim right about here. And this should allow us to hit all 5 points at the same time. There we go. So instead of having to struggle, we get all 5 at once. And what we're going to do now is DMJ back here and run at this tentacle. The reason we do this is because going in from the back of Ophion is actually quicker than the front. So we're going to keep running and dash as soon as we can. Here, Mikiwi actually has another video on this, but we have an optimal quotation mark fall. We're going to look for a part where the wall here is sort of straight and cropped out. So that's what we're looking for. We're going to lean into it, dash and sword, and dash into the truck and triangle. If you don't understand how I'm stopping at the car, I would recommend looking up videos on the secret ending. Unlocking the secret ending is just going to save you like 10 or so seconds. It's easy time save. I'd go and, collect those shards, finish those house sequences. So yeah, that is my New Game Plus any percent Returnal speedrun guide. Feel free to leave comments and I'll go through and try to answer any questions you might have. I'll also leave a link to our Speedrunner Discord if you want to come in and ask questions. We have a great community where everyone's willing to answer. We also have many other categories if you're willing to check those out. And yeah, appreciate you watching and hope you have good luck on your runs.